デスクトップ見え始めました。
あ、見えた？
はい。
Quiet pressure in your chest, like the calendar just flipped and suddenly 2026 sounds too close. Good. That pressure is not panic, it's signal. It's your nervous system detecting a change in the physics of work. And I'm going to be very direct with you. This is not another AI will change everything someday video. This is about 7 technologies that are already crossing the line from tools into workers. And by 2026, they will be replacing entire categories of tasks so fast that a lot of people will swear it happened overnight. It won't. It will be the result of compounding, better models, cheaper compute, faster networks, cleaner data pipelines, and a new default expectation from
彼言ってるのは2026年に AI が人の仕事をリプレイするっていうことを言ってるわけね。
every company on Earth. If software can do it, why are we paying humans to do it? That question sounds
だから人間がするのをやめて AI にやらそうと。
brutal. It is brutal. But it is also the most liberating question you can face, because once you understand it, you stop negotiating with reality and you start designing your future on purpose. Let's do this from first principles.
これ今我々議論したことそのものだよね。
Because in moments like this, analogies will betray you. Most people treat job disruption like a story about gadgets. Smartphones replaced cameras, streaming replaced
ここでそういうことを言ってるわけだな。
DVDs, ride-sharing replaced taxis. That mental model is too small. What's happening now is a phase change in computation itself. For decades, computers were rigid. They executed explicit instructions. You had to speak their language. You had to write the steps. If the steps weren't there, nothing happened. That created gatekeepers of productivity, the people who knew the syntax, the systems, the workflows. But now we've crossed into generative computation, systems that don't just follow instructions, they infer intent, they produce outputs, they decide the next action, they talk to other systems, they learn from feedback. The value is shifting away from who can operate the tool and toward who can define the problem, judge the output, and own the consequence.
これがやっぱり今回の一つの目線だよね。
That shift sounds philosophical until you realize it's going to rewrite payrolls. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Jobs won't disappear evenly. They will disappear asymmetrically. The jobs that are mostly language, mostly pattern, mostly repetition, mostly compliance, mostly routing, those are the first to go, not because people are weak, because the work is structured in a way machines can now digest. Now I'm going to name the
だからmachine can now digest って言ってんだよね。
7 technologies, but I'm not going to do it like a list on a slide. I want you to feel what each one does, why it replaces work, which roles it hits first, and what kind of human becomes more valuable on the other side. And as we go, I want you to keep a single question running in your mind, like a background process. How much of my job is a predictable transformation of inputs into outputs? Because that's what automation eats. It doesn't eat your identity, it eats predictability. The first technology is not AI in the vague sense. It is autonomous AI agents, digital workers that can take a goal, break it into sub-goals, use tools, and run until the job is done. This is the difference between a chatbot and a worker. A chatbot answers, an agent acts, and once you understand that, you'll see why 2026 matters. In 2024 and 2025, most companies used AI like a feature, help me write an email, summarize a document, generate an image, draft code. In 2026, the winning companies will deploy AI like a workforce layer, a fleet of agents that can monitor inboxes, reconcile records, update CRMs, generate proposals, file tickets, follow up with vendors,
だから2026年はこうやって変わるよと。
schedule calls, chase signatures, prepare reports, and run the glue work that consumes thousands of human hours. The reason this replaces jobs isn't that the AI is smarter than you, it's that the process is measurable. If an agent can do 80% of the workflow at 10% of the cost, management doesn't need a moral argument. They need a spreadsheet, and agents are now getting something that makes them lethal in the job market. Persistence plus tool access. They don't forget, they don't get tired, they don't need motivation. They don't need your approval for every micro step. They can operate across apps the way a human assistant does, except faster, cheaper, and at scale. This hits first in roles where the work is move information between systems. Think admin support, junior operations, back office coordination, scheduling, basic project coordination,
こういうことをやるって言ってんだよな、AI が。
first line procurement support, and a significant portion of entry level analyst work that is basically gathering, formatting, and rephrasing information. Here's the trap. People hear agents and think, okay, so I need to learn prompts. No, prompts are not the moat. Prompts are the new keyboard shortcuts.
モートって堀ね、堀ね。
The real skill is becoming the person who can design the system the agent operates inside, define the objective, define constraints.
これだ、AI エージェントがこういうことやるよってんだな。Define objective, define constraint.
Define data access, define evaluation criteria, define what success means, and build feedback loops so the agent gets better. That's not just using AI. That's managing a synthetic team. And if that sounds intimidating, good, because it means
脅かす intimidating.
the opportunity is real. The people who will thrive are not the ones who memorize tools. They're the ones who can think in workflows, define intent with precision, and apply judgment when the machine is confidently wrong, because it will be confidently wrong. That is guaranteed. The second technology is real-time voice AI that can sell, support, and collect at scale with personality control, compliance layers, and integration into business systems. This is not the old press one for billing. This is human-level conversational automation. And by 2026, it will be normal for you to call a company and never speak to a human unless something goes off script. The reason this replaces jobs is simple. Call centers are expensive, training is slow, turnover is high, and customer expectations are immediate. Voice AI doesn't take breaks. It doesn't call in sick. It can instantly adapt to product updates. It can speak multiple languages with consistent tone. It can handle thousands of calls simultaneously. And most importantly, it can integrate with back-end systems while it speaks. A human agent can talk or type. A voice AI can do both continuously, pull up your account, verify identity, check inventory, issue refunds, schedule appointments,
こういうことをやるって言うんだよな。
upsell a plan, log the entire interaction, and trigger follow-up emails without ever leaving the conversation. That combination, conversation plus execution, is the job killer. This
こういうことをAI がやると。
hits roles that are heavily scripted, first-line support, appointment scheduling, outbound sales qualification, collections, basic insurance triage, basic banking inquiries, and huge slices of healthcare scheduling. And it will not just replace jobs at the bottom, it will compress entire management layers in these operations because
まあ、人に代わってこれをやると。
the system itself becomes the training program. Instead of coaching thousands of agents, you tune one model, monitor dashboards, and iterate. Human roles don't vanish, but they move upward. Escalations, complex empathy, negotiation, edge cases, regulatory.
だから人間はもっと特殊な例外的なことをネゴシエーションとかね、エッジケースというのは意外例外事項。
exceptions, but there will be fewer seats, and the seats will demand higher emotional intelligence and sharper decision making, not just patience. Now listen carefully. This isn't a message of doom. This is an invitation to reposition. If you are in a role that is mostly scripted conversation, your defensive move is not to become a better script reader. Your defensive move is to become the person who owns the outcomes. Customer retention, customer satisfaction.
だから役割が変わってくると。カスタマーリテンション、カスタマーサティスファクションというようなことに集中するようになると。
Revenue per contact, compliance accuracy, and escalation efficiency. The machine can do the talking. You become the designer of the conversation strategy and the guardian of what happens when the conversation meets reality. The third technology is AI-driven document understanding plus automated compliance workflows, what you could call RPA 2.0.
RPA だな。
Traditional robotic process automation was fragile. If a button moved, the automation broke. It was rigid and expensive to maintain. But now the automation can read, it can see, it can interpret messy PDFs, handwritten forms, emails, invoices, contracts, shipping documents, tax forms, medical notes,
こういうのは全部 AI が処理してくれると。
and internal policies. That means the most boring, repetitive office work, processing
だ
documents,
から退屈な仕事はもう AI にやらせる。
extracting fields, validating entries, checking rules, routing approvals, is becoming automated in a way that actually survives change. This will replace jobs in accounting operations, accounts payable, receivable processing, basic auditing tasks, junior compliance review, insurance claims intake,
こんなのは全部 AI の仕事だと。
mortgage processing, legal document triage, HR onboarding paperwork, and administrative tasks that live inside forms and spreadsheets. Here's why it accelerates in 2026. Companies have spent years digitizing their documents but not extracting their meaning. Once AI can extract meaning at scale, the old bottleneck disappears. The moment that happens, management looks at a department and realizes, wait, so the output of this team is basically structured data plus a decision tree. And once work becomes structured data plus decision tree, it becomes software. This is a brutal law of economics. Anything that can be made into software will eventually be priced like software, and software is cheaper than humans. So what do you do with this? You stop thinking your job is processing. Your job is risk. Your job is interpretation. Your job is exceptions. Your job is decision
まあ意思決定とか例外項目を人はやるようになる。
accountability. That's where humans stay valuable. The machine can extract fields. You decide whether the weird edge case is fraud, error, or a new pattern the company must adapt to. That means you need domain knowledge. If you work in insurance, you need to understand the reality of claims. If you work in finance, you need to understand the intent behind transactions. If you work in healthcare admin, you need to understand the consequences of mistakes. Domain expertise is becoming the new currency because the tool is becoming universal. The fourth technology is computer vision at industrial scale, combined with robotics, replacing physical inspection and routine handling. People love to talk about AI like it lives only in screens. That's naive.
だから現場とのやり取りをロボットが対応する。
The next wave is AI moving into the physical world, where the money is real and the margins are thin. Computer vision systems can now inspect products on lines, detect defects, verify packaging, monitor safety compliance, measure inventory, track motion, and catch anomalies that
実務とのやり取りっていうのは AI がロボットがやると。
humans miss because humans get tired. And when vision connects to robotics, pick and place arms, autonomous mobile robots, automated sorting systems,
これ IoT もさやっぱり物の搬送とか出し入れなんかもどこまで自動化できるかっていうこともやっぱり検討するべきだということを言ってんだよね。
routine warehouse and light manufacturing tasks compress fast. This doesn't mean all warehouse jobs vanish. It means the job composition changes. Fewer people doing repetitive movement, more people
Fewer people ってでしょ。
supervising systems, maintaining
だから人はスーパーバイジングシステム。
robots, handling exceptions, and optimizing flows. But again, here's the part people don't want to hear. That transition does not preserve headcount. A facility that once needed 300 people might need 120, and those 120 must be more technical and more adaptable. In
でこれは300人を120人でやるって話をしてるんだよね。
2026, the competitive warehouses will run like software systems, sensors feeding dashboards, robots executing routes, computer vision confirming reality, and humans acting as high-leverage problem solvers rather than human conveyor belts. The roles hit hardest are the ones where the value is eyes and hands without much variation. Basic quality inspection, basic sorting, repetitive packing, repetitive scanning, repetitive
これロボットがやることを言ってるわけね。
inventory counts. The roles that grow are maintenance technicians, robotics supervisors, safety specialists who understand AI monitoring,
まあ人やることはこういうことだよと。
process engineers, and operations translators. The people who can talk to engineers and also understand floor reality. If you want to be unreplaceable here, become the bridge. The machine can see and move. Humans who can redesign the system, layout, process, exception handling, will own the future. The fifth technology is autonomy in logistics, vehicles, drones, and route optimizing systems that turn transportation into computation. Autonomous driving gets all the headlines, but you don't need full self-driving in every condition to replace jobs. You need constrained autonomy, yard trucks in ports, autonomous forklifts,
まあ自動化だよ、オートノマスはな。自動運転とか。
autonomous delivery in controlled zones, drones for inventory scanning, drones for industrial inspection, and route optimization that shrinks
ドローン使っていっちゃってね。
the need for dispatchers and coordinators. By 2026, you'll see a heavy expansion of autonomy in fenced environments, because that's where the ROI is easiest and the risk is lower. Companies don't need a robot that can drive anywhere. They need a robot that can drive reliably in their environment. This replaces work in dispatch operations, routine inspection routes, parts of delivery and transporting.
まあどこまでロボットを今ね使えるかどうかっていうのはちょっと分かんないけど、これはそういうこと言っ
Controlled
てるんだ
settings and a slice of last mile logistics where the biggest cost isn't driving skill, it's inefficiency. Route optimizing AI is already reducing the need for humans to plan and coordinate. And when you combine that with autonomy, you're not just optimizing, you're removing the human from the loop for long stretches of time. If you work in logistics, your future is not learning to drive better. Your future is learning to orchestrate autonomy, safety protocols, exception handling, compliance, system monitoring, and continuous improvement. Someone has to define what good looks like for these systems. Someone has to decide when autonomy pauses and humans intervene. Someone has to manage the
まあオートノミーで人がどうやって介入するかと
interface between physical reality and digital control. That is a skill set. Most people won't build it. If you do, you won't be competing with local labor. You'll be competing at a much higher tier. The sixth technology is digital twins and simulation-driven operations.
これデジタルトゥインだね。
The idea that every serious physical system will have a living virtual counterpart that predicts failures, tests changes, and
だから今回もデジタルトゥインをどうやって導入するかっていうこともあるよね。
optimizes performance before reality pays the price. This is one of the most underestimated job-replacing technologies because it doesn't look like automation, it looks like planning. But digital twins replace entire categories of work that exist because we used to guess. When you can simulate a factory flow, a supply chain, an energy grid, a building,
これね、ファクトリーフローから全てね、デジタルトゥインで見れるようにする。
a vehicle, or a product life cycle with high fidelity, you eliminate countless human hours of meetings, approvals, manual analysis, and trial and error. You move from reactive operations to predictive operations. That changes staffing. Roles hit here include routine planning analysts, repetitive project coordination, manual QA cycles in engineering, certain safety and compliance tasks that can be
まあいろ
simulated
んな作業がね、デジタルトゥインの中で対応取れるようにすると。
and verified, and large parts of reporting culture where people produce documents to justify decisions instead of running experiments to discover truth. In companies that adopt digital twins deeply, you won't win arguments with slides. You'll win with simulation. And that means the people who thrive are not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who can build experiments, interpret results, and make decisions under uncertainty with evidence. The reason this matters in 2026 is that simulation is becoming cheaper and more integrated,
まあシミュレーションが容易にできるようになるとな、インテグレートできると。
powered by accelerated computing and AI-assisted modeling. The bottleneck used to be, we can't build a twin, it's too expensive and takes too long. Now the bottleneck is cultural. Are you willing to replace meetings with experiments? Most organizations are not emotionally ready for that, but the ones that are
まあ感情的になかなかそういかない文化的な問題もあるよと。
will outcompete the rest so violently.
やっぱりその社員にそういうふうな気持ちをデジタルトゥインをどうやって運営するかっていうふうな文化的な衝撃を取り除く必要があるよね。
That the rest will be forced to follow. That's how job replacement spreads, not as a moral choice, but as competitive survival. The seventh technology is generative code and automated software production, natural language programming at industrial scale,
これはあれだよね、ナチュラルランゲージプログラミング。
turning many entry-level and mid-level software tasks into a commodity. Let's be precise. Software engineering does not disappear, but the way software gets
ソ
produced
フトウェアエンジニアリングはなくならない。
changes so dramatically that many jobs tied to writing routine code will compress. By 2026, companies will treat code as the easy part and system design as the hard part. The machine will generate scaffolding, tests, documentation, migrations, and repetitive integrations. It will translate product requirements into working prototypes. It will maintain legacy systems by refactoring at scale. It will write internal tools that used to require a team. It will convert business logic into code with fewer humans in the loop. This replaces work in basic CRUD development, routine web page assembly, repetitive API glue code, many kinds of QA scripting, basic data transformation scripts, and ticket factories where
設計だよ、設計。
developers spend their days implementing small changes to predictable systems. The roles that survive and grow are architecture, security, reliability, data governance, performance engineering, product judgment, and the deeply human part, deciding what should exist in the first place. Also, the integration of software into real-world outcomes, healthcare, manufacturing, finance, education, will demand humans who understand consequences, not just syntax. Here's the paradox you must accept. Learning to code is still valuable, but not for the reason people think. It's not
まあコードは重要だけど人がやるべきものではない。
valuable because coding will guarantee you a job. That guarantee is dead. It's valuable because coding teaches you how to think in systems, how to decompose problems, how to reason about cause and effect, but the coding itself, the act of typing syntax, will increasingly be done by machines. So if your identity is, I am a coder, you're building on sand. If your identity is, I solve problems using computation, you're building on rock. Now let me connect all 7 technologies into one unified picture, because if you treat them separately, you'll underestimate the speed. Agents automate digital workflows. Voice AI automates conversation plus execution. Document AI automates paper into decisions. Vision plus robotics automates physical routine. Constrained autonomy automates movement and logistics. Digital twins automate planning and optimization. Generative code automates the creation of software itself. Notice what's happening. We are automating the entire pipeline from intention to action. The friction is collapsing. And when friction collapses, old jobs don't just change, they evaporate, because the reason they existed was friction. So the real question isn't, will AI take my job? The real question is, which tasks in my job are friction and which tasks are judgment? Because friction is what machines destroy. Judgment is what humans must own. And judgment is not a vague feeling. Judgment is built from domain expertise, taste, ethics,
まあ判断が中心になるの、ジャッジメント。
accountability, and resilience. That's why the safest strategy in 2026 is not chasing a tool. Tools change monthly. The safest strategy is building depth in a domain where mistakes matter and outcomes are real, then learning to command these technologies as amplifiers. I want you to imagine 2 people in 2026 with the same job title, same resume formatting, same degree, same years of experience. One person uses AI agents like a calculator, small boosts, occasional help, still working basically the old way. The other person has built a personal AI factory. Agents that do research, agents that prepare drafts, agents that test ideas, agents that monitor metrics, agents that run follow-ups, agents that create dashboards, agents that surface anomalies, and a workflow where the human only touches the highest leverage decision points. Who wins? Not because they're better, but because their throughput is higher. And in markets, throughput wins. That is why a person who uses AI will replace a person who doesn't, not out of malice, out of arithmetic. Now, before you spiral into fear, I want to give you a clarity test you can run on yourself. It's simple. Don't overthink it. Ask, if I disappeared tomorrow, could my work be described as a checklist someone else could follow? If the answer is yes, you are vulnerable. If your value is, I follow the checklist, you are directly competing with an agent. But if your value is, I decide what the checklist should be, you are moving into ownership. In 2026, ownership is survival. Let's make this practical without turning it into a motivational poster. If you're in admin work, your leverage move is to become an operations designer. Learn how systems connect, learn how data flows, learn how to build agent workflows, become the person who can rebuild a process end-to-end and measure improvements. If you're in customer support, become a customer outcome strategist, learn product analytics, learn churn drivers, learn escalation design, learn compliance and tone strategy.
まあこういう業務設計をやれるようになると。
Learn how to train and monitor voice agents. If you're in accounting, move toward financial interpretation and risk. Learn controls, fraud patterns, forecasting, and how to supervise automated pipelines rather than manually process invoices.
本来業務はどうあるべきかってことに集中できるようになると。
If you're in logistics, learn autonomy oversight, safety protocols, and optimization. If you're in manufacturing, learn robotics operations, exception handling, and continuous improvement. If you're in software, move toward architecture, security, reliability, and domain-driven design. And in every case, build the skill nobody wants to build because it's uncomfortable, the ability to define good questions. Because here's what will happen in 2026. Information will be cheap, answers will be cheap, drafts will be cheap, code will be cheap, designs will be cheap. But the ability to ask a question that forces the system to reveal truth, that will be expensive. Taste
こういうふうな頭を使うところがやっぱりエクスペンシブだって言ってる
will
わ
be
けね。
expensive, ethics will be expensive, trust will be expensive, and resilience will be expensive because the world will reward the
やっぱり定常業務的なことはやっぱり安いんだと。
people who can adapt without collapsing every time the tool chain changes. Let me give you a mental model that will keep you calm while everyone else is panicking. Most people think disruption is like a wave that knocks you down. That's wrong. Disruption is like a rising tide. It lifts the platforms that can float and drowns the structures that can't. Your job is to become a platform. Platforms don't rely on one tool. Platforms host tools. Platforms integrate tools. Platforms route work intelligently. A human platform is someone who can take a messy goal and orchestrate resources, AI, people, data, systems, until the goal becomes reality. That person is not replaceable by 2026. That person becomes the one replacing others, whether they want to or not.
これだけどさ、人のやることはどうやって変わるかってここでは言ってんだよな。今までやってる仕事はもう AI に任せればいいと。これから違うよってことから今言ったよね。
And yes, there's a moral weight to that. I'm not here to romanticize it. The transition will hurt. Some people will be left behind. Some industries will compress faster than training systems can adapt. But your responsibility is not to pretend it isn't happening. Your responsibility is to look at it clearly and move. Run, don't walk. Not because life is a race, but because exponential change punishes hesitation. If you wait until the layoff notice to start learning, you are learning under panic. Panic is a terrible teacher. Learn now while you can choose. Now I'm going to do something that most people won't do. I'm going to tell you how to spot whether your job is one of the first to be hit without knowing anything about AI. Look at your day. Count how many hours you spend doing any of these. Copying data between systems, reformatting documents, writing templated messages, summarizing information, scheduling, handling routine questions, following scripts, checking compliance boxes, routing approvals, and producing reports that nobody reads except to confirm the format. If that is most of your week, your job title is irrelevant. Your work is a candidate for automation. If, instead, you spend most of your week making decisions where the outcome matters, handling ambiguity, negotiating trade-offs, understanding human motivations, and being accountable for consequences, your work is harder to automate. Not because AI can't do parts of it, but because society needs a human to own the risk. And I'll push you even further. The safest jobs aren't creative, and they aren't technical. That's a false split. The safest jobs are the ones that sit at the intersection of deep domain knowledge and the ability to command automation. A nurse who understands care deeply and can use AI to amplify monitoring and triage will become more valuable. A teacher who understands learning deeply and can use AI to personalize instruction will become more valuable. A mechanic who understands machines deeply and can use AI diagnostics will become more valuable. A marketer who understands human behavior deeply and can use AI for testing and iteration will become more valuable. The value is not in the tool. The value is in the domain, plus judgment, plus accountability. So when someone asks you, what should I study to survive? The answer is not a trendy list, it's a strategy. Build a deep relationship with one domain where you can care about outcomes for a decade, not a semester. Then become bilingual, speak human and speak machine. Not by learning syntax, by learning systems. Learn how data moves, how models behave, how evaluation works, how feedback loops improve performance, how failure happens, how bias enters, how security breaks, how costs scale. If you can do that, you don't need job security, you become job security. And if you're still listening, you're probably not looking for comfort, you're looking for advantage. So here's the advantage. Most people will waste 2026 using these technologies to do trivial things faster. They'll generate more emails, more posts, more noise. They'll become efficient at irrelevance. You cannot afford that. You must use these technologies to do higher order work, to understand systems, to simulate outcomes, to test ideas, to build workflows that make you 10 times more effective, not 10 times more busy. The real winners won't be the ones who use AI. The winners will be the ones who build compounding systems that improve every week. And this is where I want to leave you, not with a conclusion, not with a neat bow, but with an open loop that should keep you thinking after the video ends. If 7 technologies are replacing jobs by automating intention to action, then the only stable position is to become the person who chooses the intentions, designs the actions, and owns the consequences. So ask yourself very honestly, without excuses, in your current role, are you the one executing the checklist, or are you the one designing the checklist? Because if you're executing it, 2026 is coming for you. But if you're designing it, 2026 is coming with you. And the next move is deciding which of these 7 technologies you're going to turn into your personal leverage before everyone else does.
これはまさしくさ、今見せたやつは今日議論したやつの なんていうか、
This is a chip manufacturing tool. This is the
ア
biggest.
If
ド
you're
バイ
watching
ス
this because you feel that quiet
アドバイスになるよね。
うん。
で彼は口早にいろんなこと言ったけど、要するに要は AI がやるのを単なる AI に仕事を任せるんじゃなくて、それによってジョブがなくなるんじゃなくて、どういうふうな仕事を仕方を変えたらいいかっていうことをやっぱりもう一回きちんとこの7つのね技術をどうやって仕事を置き換えるのかっていうことをいろんな視点から彼言ってるから、その見直したらいいよね。これね、このあれアドレスあなたに送るから。
はい。
これはどうやってやるんだっけな。